Right, we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome this morning. How are you doing? How are you guys doing? I see everyone popping on. Welcome, guys. Um, and welcome to those who are joining for the first time on LinkedIn. We're happy to have you guys here with me this morning. I am Kay Wilson, for those who are joining for the first time. And I am the lead consultant with Northern Connections Canada Immigration. I'm coming to you live from Regina, Saskatchewan in Canada. As you guys hop on in, as per usual, say hi and let me know where in the world are you guys joining me from today. Um, we're going to be going over our usual immigration updates. And as per usual, there's always a lot that's happening in the realms of Canadian immigration. And you can be sure to come on and join us every week on a Wednesday morning to get all that's happening, to get all the updates, and to find out all the latest as it relates to Canadian immigration. Hi, Rolana. Thanks for joining. Hi from Uganda. Welcome. Nice to have you. Oben, my friends from Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad. I see someone from Nigeria. Welcome, guys, from Trinidad and Tobago. All right. So today we're going to look at, as usual, we look at the PNP updates, the draws that has happened in the past week, or any recent changes where PNP is concerned. We'll be talking about some of the recent announcement as it relates to the travel update. Ariel from Grenada, welcome. Thanks for joining. All right, so I'm going to start off with New Brunswick. So as per usual, we share from time to time what's happening with New Brunswick in terms of their recruitment fairs. New Brunswick is one of those provinces who typically has recruitment fairs ever so often. And they have one that's currently open, that's currently ongoing. It's really targeting the forestry sector. And so what they're having is a virtual recruitment fair. We've shared a couple of their fairs in recent months. Like I said, they have them from time to time because the aim is to get candidates to fill some of the vacancies that they have in that province. And so this one, like I said, is geared towards those who are working in the forestry sector, and it's open to certain NOC codes. So if you're familiar with the NOC system, if you know your NOC code, then you'll know whether this particular fair applies to you. And like I said, it changes from time to time. They'll have different recruitment events for different occupations and different industries. So it will be based on the labor market needs that are in existence in the province at that very moment. And they're always having different fairs. So it's a great idea to keep a check with New Brunswick. Visit their website, the Government of New Brunswick website, and they usually will post them there. They're open for very brief periods usually because, of course, there are a lot of people who are looking at getting jobs in Canada, and so it fills up quickly. So for this one, they're recruiting for just a couple of positions. So 7311 is a NOC, and that's for construction millwrights and industrial mechanics. They have 7312, heavy duty equipment mechanics, 8241, logging machinery operators. These are more in the skilled trades area, as you can see. So 9431 sawmill machine operators and woodworking machine operators, which is 9437. So those are the NOC. If you or anyone that you know has any work experience in these areas, then definitely tell them to check this out. All right. So that's just some job related information for you there, guys. I'm going to move next to the PNP draws. So the first one I want to touch on is the province of Prince Edward Island. Prince Edward Island, as some of you may know, if you're following along, you'll know that PEI is Canada's smallest province. And so they had a draw on November 18. And in this draw, they invited 172 candidates through their labor and express entry streams. all right? And a further 16 invitations were issued to those who are in the business category. So that is for entrepreneurs. So just remember that the PNP and the provincial nominee programs, or the permanent residence programs in general, they are not just open to those who have, work experience with an employer. It's also open to those who are self-employed, those who are entrepreneurs, right? So there are different streams and different ways that you can apply for permanent residence in Canada. The next one I want to touch on is Manitoba, right? So Manitoba is a little bit different from most of the others, in the sense that, as you know, you need to have a connection to Manitoba in order to apply under their PNP programs. And that connection can be in many different forms. So it can be having a relative, a close relative in Manitoba, to an extent, a friend. The weight of that is not so strong at this point based on the points that you're getting, but it can be a friend, but not necessarily that strong. It will depend on the other factors that you have that will determine your overall score, because most of the programs are points based, and so it will depend on how well you score. That will determine your chances of getting drawn and getting selected. So Manitoba had a draw in the skilled workers in Manitoba category. So these are people who would have worked in Manitoba at least. And they issued 376 invitations. So that's 376 candidates that were invited. And this is just the candidates. So it does not include, this number does not reflect their family members or anybody else that would be on the application. So this is just the primary applicants. And the score for this was 464. So not very high for Manitoba. The ones that you'll find the score being very high is for the skilled workers overseas. And so in this draw, they had 22 letters of advice that were issued to skilled workers overseas. And the cutoff for this one was 726. So that is pretty high. And again, that reiterates the need to have like a true a blood relative, at least in Manitoba. I mean, I don't think having a friend is going to be that significant with regards to your score. They also had an international education stream draw where they issued 30 invitations. So 30 candidates would have been selected in that draw. All right, so that's for Manitoba. And outside of Manitoba, there were some other draws as well. So we had British Columbia. They actually just had a draw yesterday. BC tends to have very frequent draws. They had one that was, this was under the skilled immigration and express entry category for British Columbia, and they issued 258 invitations across different streams. And the different streams include the skilled worker stream, international graduate streams for those who may have graduated from a post-secondary educational institution in Canada, the semi-entry level and semi-skilled worker stream, as well as the express entry aligned streams, right? And then they had a separate draw for those in NOC 0621 and 0631, which is retail trade workers and restaurant supervisors, right? And in that draw, they also had 98 candidates. So BC tends to do a lot of draws with these two specific NOCs, and it's based on the need for workers in this area in BC. So if you work in, like retail or in restaurant management and operations, then BC would definitely be a good destination and a good place to look for employment as well. All right, so moving along, we had a change to Nova Scotia. So Nova Scotia has a list of occupations in demand, right? And these occupations in demand, they tend to target the lower skilled occupations, so NOC Cs and Ds. So the occupations that are under those categories, some of them are in high demand based on the labor market needs in Nova Scotia. And so they added a few more NOC codes to the list. So, like I said, these are mostly for NOCCs and Ds, and they are in demand. They do require a full-time job offer with a Nova Scotia employer, and the list ranges. It varies. They have nurses and nurses aides. They have food and beverage servers, counter attendants, kitchen helpers. They added light duty cleaners to that list, and of course truck drivers. So truck drivers will generally be an occupation that is in demand across Canada. Canada will always need truck drivers, and especially, with what was happening with COVID-19 and the availability. Yeah, what was happening with COVID-19 and the availability of jobs and the availability of food supply, right? So truck drivers are definitely one of those skills, occupation that will definitely be in demand across provinces. And we can see that as it's reflected in this list that's provided by Nova Scotia. And a part of that list is also construction trades and laborers, all right? So they made an update to that list recently. And then the final draw I'm going to touch on is Saskatchewan. So most of you know I'm a huge fan of Saskatchewan. All right, so Saskatchewan had a draw of 633 invitations, and this was between the two categories, the two major categories for those who are outside Canada. So express entry and the occupations in demand. So some of you may know Saskatchewan has an occupations in demand list. It's not, they don't necessarily list what they need, they list what they don't need. So if your occupation, if your NOC is not on the list of those that they don't need, then it means that they need you. Hopefully that makes sense. But so they have a list of excluded occupations, right? So if your occupation is not excluded, then it means that you most likely could apply under this program if you meet the other requirements, right? So with each program comes a different set of eligibility requirements. And these are all programs. So everything that I just mentioned, these are all programs that you can apply for from outside Canada. I see the questions popping up. So yes, these are all programs that you can apply for from outside Canada. And most of them, a lot of them, not all, do not require a job offer. So for example, with this one, with Saskatchewan, the score for this draw, the cutoff score, if you've been following Saskatchewan draws, you'll notice that the cutoff is usually a little higher. So this one was 65, and it was mainly centered around like some of the skilled trades occupations. So the list that was the list of occupations that was selected in this draw was a lot shorter than what we'd usually see. So this was definitely one of those different draws. So they selected from both express entry and the occupations in demand categories. All right. So I see the comments. You can pop them in. Somebody's asking, is there anything in housekeeping? Not that I know of. I didn't see any housekeeping on the list. The closest thing to that was they had light duty cleaners, but of course, with those, and that's localized to Nova Scotia. So of course, you would need a job offer for that. All right, so that's for the PNP. And then there were some other updates that were of note, and I'll mention them. So they made some program updates to students who are studying in Canada. And this is with regards to eligibility for a post-graduation work permit. So students generally are ineligible for a post-grad work permit if they are doing some of these programs. So for example, if you're doing English or French as a second language, so if you decided that, okay, I want to study in Canada, of course, Canada's second official language, one of the official languages is French. And so if it's a case where you decide that you want to study French in Canada to have the opportunity of having, Canadian education, or maybe you think that you can gain additional points for having studied in Canada, and at the same time you're also learning French, which also would help you where PR is concerned and getting additional points for language. However, if you come to Canada to study French or English as a second language, this is one of those programs where you will not be eligible for a post-graduation work permit. Okay, so that's something to note. And then if you come to Canada also to do maybe a general interest or self-improvement course, then you also would not be eligible for a post-graduation work permit. So this is basically reiterating the need to be very careful about your program choice. And you'll hear me say this all the time. The study permit application starts from the time you're choosing your program. So it doesn't start after you've been accepted and know you're ready to apply. No, it starts from the time that you're choosing your program, so you want to choose wisely. And also, if you do a course or a program at a private career college at this time, you would not be eligible for a post-graduation work permit. And if you were thinking of having your spouse or your common law partner come with you to Canada, and you're studying at a private career college as well, they will no longer be eligible. They will not be eligible for a spousal open work permit. So again, remember, like I said, the application for the study permit starts from choosing your program. So don't take that very lightly when you're making that decision about studying, if you've decided to go that route. All right. And then of course your and like I said, these are just program updates that I wanted to mention. And so your DLI, or the school, the institution that you're choosing to come to Canada to study, and I know a lot of people use, studying is definitely a pathway to get permanent residence in Canada, right? When you're making that choice, there are eligible and ineligible institutions, and so you have to be mindful of that. There's a list of DLI, so see the DLI list on the IRCC's website, or if you need assistance with choosing a program, you can reach out to us. We do have a school search service where we can help you to get enrolled, or we can provide you with a link to a database that you can use to search for a program and apply from there. And that way you can be confident that the program and the school that you're selecting is, especially the school, is an eligible institution, and you can get the benefit of being able to work outside of school and post studies, right? So I know most people are not paying thousands of dollars for tuition to come to Canada and not being able to study or not being able to work, right? It just, unless you really want to do that, but of course that would not be the preferred choice. So the program or the institution must be eligible. It must be a public post-secondary institution. It can be a private school, but generally that's limited to Quebec. So if you're going to Quebec to study, then the private colleges in Quebec. Of course, there are requirements to be met as well, but generally private colleges are limited to Quebec. But outside of Quebec, a private college would not make you eligible for a post-grad work permit. And then there are some private institutions that may be able to offer programs that would be eligible for the post-grad work permit, but you have to do your research. They must be able to offer or to confer like degrees, such as associates or bachelors. So it depends on the institution. And even some institutions, they may be eligible. Only some of their courses or their programs may be eligible. So that's something to also be mindful of. And then now I'm just going to touch on the travel updates. So Canada recently released some news as it relates to traveling to Canada. As you know, we're still, dealing with COVID-19. We're still in a global pandemic. And so there are still travel restrictions in place in coming to Canada. A lot of those restrictions have been lifted, but there are still a number of restrictions in place. And one of the first ones I want to touch on is, as of November 30th, people who are fully vaccinated with some other vaccines. So at first, there were only 4 or 5 vaccines that were on the list for those who can travel to Canada as fully vaccinated, right? Now they have added a couple more, and I know I have a few clients from Trinidad who were concerned about, the vaccine that they have gotten may have not been accepted, and so some of those are now on the list, like Sinopharm, that's now on the list, and Sinovac and Covaxin. So they have added those to the existing list of acceptable vaccines. So that is definitely good news to those who were vaccinated with those and wanted to travel to Canada, right? So now you can be considered. Previously, if you had these vaccines, you would not have been considered fully vaccinated for Canadian immigration purposes, but now they have been added. And they have also made some changes to those who are fully vaccinated. So those who are fully vaccinated can now, as of November 30th, they can depart and re-enter Canada within 72 hours, within 72 hours of leaving, and be exempt from providing a COVID-19 molecular test, right? This is limited to certain people, so definitely do your checks before traveling if you are in Canada and you plan to leave and re-enter. I think the motive behind this was to enable people to travel to the US for brief trips, because what usually happens a lot here is that people may travel across the border, right? You may drive across the US and you may go for a day trip. So you might travel across the border, like we do it all the time, because we're close to, we're just a couple hours drive from the US border where we're located right now. And so you may travel back and forth within a day. So this is also, I think, was an accommodation for those who may have to travel to the US for a quick trip. All right. And then the last update I want to mention is, as of January 15, 2022, there will be further restrictions on who can enter Canada. Previously, international students, for example, did not need to be fully vaccinated to come to Canada. The school needed to have a COVID-19 readiness plan. The student would need to have a quarantine plan and, of course, be tested before coming to Canada. Now, as of January 17, international students will need to be fully vaccinated in order to travel to Canada, right? And then there are some other groups as well that will need to be fully vaccinated in order to come to Canada. So they are tightening that up a little bit. This includes people who are on, work permits. It exempts children still. So, unvaccinated children under 18 are still exempted. So they don't need to be fully vaccinated, but a test may be required prior to coming to Canada. And then family members, right? Family members of Canadian citizens, permanent residents, such as maybe spouses, children, and so on. Previously, of course, there was that exemption. So they now need to be fully vaccinated in order to travel. And there were some class of workers that used to be exempted, and now, so most people at this point need to be. They do still have an exemption for new permanent residents who might be traveling to Canada to do your landing. There's still an exemption there from the requirement to be fully vaccinated. But I would say just keep a track of, the news updates. Join us every week. We will come out with updates as they are released. And there's also a tool on the Government of Canada's website that you can use to see whether you are eligible to travel to Canada. So that's always a great place to start before making travel plans. And you'll note that for some visa offices where there was, a backlog of TRV applications, so that's temporary resident visa applications, you'll find that for some visa offices, the processing times have significantly been reduced. And that's because they are actually processing TRV applications. But of course, those who have indicated their vaccination status will most likely get processed before those who may have applied previously and they have no knowledge of your vaccination status. So if you're still waiting, that could be a reason why, if you've applied a long time ago. Okay, so somebody's asking about private colleges in New Brunswick. Is your spouse still eligible? As at this time, if you are applying to a private college in New Brunswick, your spouse would still not be eligible. I know New Brunswick has announced a program that will allow certain students who study at a private college in the province to have the opportunity to apply for permanent residence. That is something that's in the works. They did announce it earlier, but I don't believe it takes effect yet. It will take effect sometime next year, and they haven't released any details about that program and what that will look like. So tread carefully. That would be my suggestion. So as of right now, if you are studying at a private college, even in New Brunswick, the same rules still apply until they release the details of that program. We don't know what the details will be or when it will be effective, if it will be, retroactive to those who have previously started studying. We don't know what that will look like. Somebody's saying on the application form, it didn't ask about your vaccinated status. It won't. And if you apply today, the form still won't ask about your vaccination status, but you have to, and that's why I recommend when you're doing some of these applications, get professional guidance. It won't ask you for it, but these are just some information that you have to disclose to get your application processed accordingly. So they're not going to ask you about it. You'll not see a section of the form asking you about your vaccination status, unfortunately. So, but you can definitely submit that information. Even if you applied before, you can submit maybe a web form or an email to the visa office to update your information. Okay, how about British Columbia applying for school? I'm not sure what that question is in regards to. All right, I'm just looking at some of these questions. I have maybe about 5 more minutes. Oh, what did I do on Instagram? All right. What about project management? I mean, the program or the field that you want to study in is not necessarily the biggest concern. It's more about the institution, that you're going to study in, and of course the province that you'll be studying in as well. For culinary, I did mention about BC. Are there consultants that specialize in helping nurses get across? I mean, we do help nurses, but there are no specific programs right now that are geared towards nurses. I know Newfoundland, they actually, that's probably one program I didn't mention. Newfoundland actually had released some information about their new program that they started earlier this year. And from that program draw, they actually selected quite a few nurses, licensed practical nurses from that draw. I think it was like over 200. And so the program itself is closed right now, but we expect that it should reopen soon, hopefully by January. The last time it opened was in January. So they released the details of that draw. I think they had over 600 candidates, and it was split between practical nurses and IT workers. So there are programs for nurses, not anything, not specific programs like exclusively for nurses, but there are different programs that people can apply to across occupations. So hopefully that makes sense. All right. All right, guys. Let's see one more question here. Okay. Oops. I keep putting on filters on Instagram. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to cover this morning. Thanks so much for joining and for asking your questions. As per usual, if you need to reach out to us, you can do so by emailing info@nccanadaimmigration.com, and whichever platform you're joining me from, there will be a way there that you can contact myself and my team. So reach out to us if you're looking for application support or guidance, or if you want to do a consultation to get personalized one-on-one support as it relates to applying and what are some of the things that you need to do to get started. I'll join you guys next week once again with further updates, and there are always things happening in immigration, so stay tuned, and we'll definitely have you covered here. Thanks again, and have a great rest of your week, guys.